Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off this tale with a classic case of turning corporate red tape into personal opportunity. Our OP was navigating a per diem policy with strict rules but plenty of loopholes. What started as an attempt to stay thrifty quickly turned into a game of strategic shopping that involved canned chili, Walmart runs, and some creative expense reporting. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. How a per diem policy turned my business trips into a Walmart shopping spree. This happened about 15 years ago. In our company, per diem food was $15 for breakfast, $25 for lunch, $50 for dinner. We were told to buy the food with your company card and submit photos of the receipts using your phone. One day I spent $35 on dinner and the photo of the receipt was a little fuzzy. By the time I noticed it, when I went through the photos and assigned them to meals, I'd lost the paper copy, so I got reprimanded by our VP. All photos must be clear and easy to read. He also confirmed that meals under $25 didn't need receipts. Alrighty. Before I got that email, I'd thought over our per diem policy and its potential loopholes. That was the day I decided to begin exploiting it. Challenge accepted. I have very simple tastes. Give me a flip-top can of chili and a plastic spoon and I'm fine. Plus, that way I can just go back to the hotel and rest. I don't have to spend the time at a restaurant or hit a drive-thru on the way back. So about $10 a day is plenty, but the company was offering $140 and receipts were only required for transactions over $25. Edit. My math was off here. The company actually offered $90. So the first day of travel, I go to Walmart or Costco and get my food for the week. I do 3 separate transactions, one for $15, one for $25, and another for $25. That took care of my food for the week. I always went as cheap as possible since any extra money I spent on food was money I couldn't spend on something else. Then I'd spend the rest of my travel days buying whatever I wanted, never spending more than $25 per transaction. Costco and Walmart were ideal. They offered cheap food I liked, and also all sorts of other things. I knew I couldn't be greedy. If every day I came up right to the max of each meal per diem, but not over, and never submitted receipts, that would seem strange, so I'd ensure to bucket them into only 1 or 2 transactions per day. I did this for years. As long as each receipt added up to less than $25 and I only had 1 or 2 allocated to lunch and dinner, no one cared. For a while. Then there was an outage for an airline where I had to stay an extra week on site. I had no clean clothes, so I bought some clothing at Walmart, more or less as I'd done before. I had a new boss, a new VP by then. My new boss noticed and freaked out. He and I spent hours on the phone together trying to slot each receipt into some acceptable category. It was hopeless, though. It was impossible to disguise those Walmart purchases by mixing them in with all my other Walmart purchases. No matter how much canned chili you eat, it's still canned chili. So I sent in my expense report in all its Walmart glory. My boss made it sound like someone would roll up to my desk with a siren on their head, but nothing came of it. I laid low for a few months after that and ate some really nice expensive meals. Then my boss got transferred. I got a new boss who had no knowledge of this history. I went back to my old ways. Over time, I bought kitchen towels, bath towels, water bottles, sippy cups for my kids, stuffed animals for my kids, books, tools, glasses, pants, shirts, jackets, a toaster, walkie-talkies for my kids, headphones, etc., etc. And I probably saved the company a couple $100 each trip. I always came for just under a week, so it was a win-win. Thank you for largest old company, and you're welcome for my thriftiness. The money I saved you went right to the bottom line. Should have bought gift cards so you could feel like a kid in an arcade saving up tickets to get the big prize. Imagine walking into Walmart on the last day of your travel and taking home a new PlayStation or something. And our second story. I actually do work here, but not today, and not at the moment. I work as an apprentice in a hardware store's gardening section. One Saturday, I had to go into work to get a signature from my boss for some exam dates at a vocational school. I wasn't scheduled to work that day, but I figured I'd stop by to get the signature and say hi to my coworkers whom I hadn't seen in weeks. The store is divided into various departments, each with its own area of expertise. The problem is that customers often get confused and ask the wrong people for help, and then get upset when we don't know the answer. I always found it frustrating that people don't realize we all wear company uniforms, but often still don't understand the difference between each department. The gardening team wears green uniforms with the company logo, while the other departments wear red. It should be simple, right? But time and time again, I'd have customers asking me if I worked there, even though I was clearly in a company shirt. It seemed like they never paid attention to the uniform and logo. So on this Saturday, after I got my signature, I went outside to meet up with a coworker. I wasn't wearing a uniform as I wasn't at work, but I was just catching up with my colleague. While we were talking, a customer came up and pulled at my shirt. Customer, we need you at the carpets. Me, oh, I don't work here. Customer, sure you do. I see you all the time. Me, yeah, I do work here, but not today. Customer, but I saw you talking to your coworker, so you're not on a break. Me, well, I've been in vocational school for the past few weeks, so I'm just here as a regular customer today. Customer, that sounds like a cheap excuse. What kind of customer service is this? Me, excuse me, I do work here, but not today and not right now. As you can see, I'm not in uniform. Today, I'm just a regular customer. If you need help with the carpets, I can find one of my coworkers to help you. Customer, why can't you just do it yourself? I mean, you work here, right? Me, yes, I do work here, but today I'm not. I'm a customer today, and customers aren't allowed to cut the carpet by themselves. If I just did it for you, I'd get in trouble. Customer, but you know how to do it, so why would you get in trouble? Just cut the carpet for us. At this point, my coworker overheard the conversation and stepped in to clarify. Coworker, because she's not working today. She's here as a customer, and customers can't cut the carpet. If you were at your workplace on your day off, would you be serving customers? Customer, no, I'm just here to shop. Oh. After that realization, they didn't apologize or offer any acknowledgement, but they did turn around and leave without further interaction. It was a very odd exchange, and I wasn't sure whether they were embarrassed or just frustrated, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction that the situation was resolved. In hindsight, it was a bit ridiculous that the customer thought they could just demand service when I wasn't even at work that day. I don't blame them entirely. After all, they were probably frustrated with the store's layout or couldn't find the right person, but their reaction was a bit much. It's a strange situation, one that I'll likely never forget. People often forget that when someone isn't in uniform, especially when they're not working, they're not expected to serve anyone, but I've learned to stay calm and polite in these situations. Maybe next time the customer will think twice before assuming someone's at their service, especially when they aren't even working that day. Honestly, props to you for staying calm throughout this chaotic episode. You kept your cool while juggling their wild assumptions and entitlement. And hey, at least it makes for a great story to laugh about now. Moral of the story, if you're off the clock, you're off the clock. Let them figure out the carpets themselves. And our last story. Entitled HOA President Learns Not to Mess with My Driveway. Many years ago, I lived in a neighborhood that decided to form an HOA long after the development was completed. Joining the HOA was optional since it wasn't originally established when the houses were built. Naturally, I chose not to join because why would I want to deal with that nonsense? At the time, I had an old truck parked in my driveway. It ran just fine, but I rarely used it since my daily commute required a more fuel-efficient vehicle. The truck did have a slow leak in one tire, though, so if I didn't air it up regularly, the rim would eventually touch the concrete. That's when the trouble started. Somehow, every time the tire deflated, even slightly, I'd get a notice from the city claiming the truck was an inoperable vehicle. Mind you, this truck was parked in my own driveway, not on the street, and it wasn't bothering anyone, but someone in the neighborhood clearly had too much time on their hands. Every time I got a notice, I'd air up the tire, call the city, and they'd mark the complaint as unsubstantiated. This happened about 3 or 4 times before I got fed up. While on the phone with code enforcement yet again, I casually mentioned how ridiculous this was. The person on the other end sympathized, and though they couldn't officially tell me who was filing the complaints, they dropped enough hints for me to figure it out. It was Karen, the self-appointed president of the new HOA. The kicker? Karen didn't even live on my street. Her backyard was adjacent to mine. She had to go out of her way to notice my truck. One evening, as I was airing up the tire yet again, Karen decided to confront me directly. She marched over, hands on her hips, the ultimate picture of entitled rage. "Are you seriously still parking that eyesore in your driveway?" she snapped, pointing dramatically at the truck like it had personally insulted her. I stared at her, tired from work and thoroughly done with her antics. "It's my driveway, Karen. My truck runs just fine, and it's none of your business." She wasn't having it. "It's my business. I'm the HOA president, and you're dragging down the property values for the entire neighborhood. If you're too cheap to fix that junk heap, maybe you shouldn't even live here." I folded my arms. "First off, I'm not in your precious HOA. Second, this is private property. And third, that junk heap is perfectly operable, unlike your mosquito-infested fountain." Her face turned a delightful shade of red. "What the hell did you just say?" I smiled. "You heard me. That stagnant water feature of yours, it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and I'm pretty sure that's a violation of city code. Maybe instead of worrying about my truck, you should worry about your backyard health hazard." Karen lost it. "You're a GD menace to this neighborhood. I'll have you evicted if it's the last thing I do. You think you're so clever, but we'll see who has the last laugh when the city takes action against you." "Good luck with that," I said, turning my back and walking into my house. Sure enough, the next day I called the city and filed a formal complaint about her stagnant fountain. Within 48 hours, there was someone from the city poking around her backyard. A couple of days later, the fountain was cleaned out and drained. It must have cost her a fortune to fix, but it was immensely satisfying knowing she had to deal with her own mess instead of harassing me. After that, Karen stopped filing complaints about my truck. She still gave me dirty looks every time she saw me, but I made sure to give her a friendly wave and a big grin whenever our paths crossed. Oh, people that cruise streets they don't live or work on just looking for violations are the absolute worst. They also have way too much time on their hands. I guess your nosy neighbor found her new hobby in cleaning a non-working fountain. If that was me, I'd show up at the next HOA meeting and call out the bullcrap in front of the board along with asking for their liability insurance carrier information for their officers and liability coverage. Want to see their faces go white when you ask for their insurance info with the caveat of "this happens again, I'll be making a claim," and walk out the door. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.